G'day, my name is John Huggart, and today I'm going to talk about how I wrote and recorded the song called Faith, Hope and Love. I'll have the link to the song below, and you can also find it on my channel or on Spotify and anywhere else. I actually wrote this song in 2004, and it was at a particularly, we thought at the time it was a pretty difficult time in history, but it just shows that difficult times in history can persist. What sparked it was September 11, 2001. The following year there was Bali bombings. I think it was 2004 was the London bombings. At that stage I was a young father and husband. We had 2 young children, and so we're bringing our children, raising our children in a world that, in my view, was fearful. We didn't know what our future would be. We didn't know when terror would come to Australia or come closer or come to us. And as I was thinking about that fear that's so many people have faced throughout history in different times and places and for different reasons, it's enduring. And yet the human spirit is so enduring that people are prepared to move forward even in those dark days. During world wars, people still got married. They still had children. So they still had confidence. They started businesses. They had confidence around the future. And how do you do that when everything feels so scary? So that's the theme that I was dealing with at the time. So in 2004, my children would have been 12 and 8 years old. And it started like many songwriting approaches, me just noodling around on the guitar. I'm not a great guitarist, I'm certainly not a good singer. And I'll have the words in the description here below as well. But I'll just take you through the noodling on the guitar that kind of like inspired the song. Even though it's a very different version to what came out finally on the released version on Spotify. So, what are these 2 notes here? Probably just both Ds. Just trying to have this guitar up high enough so that you can see it for the purpose of showing you how I wrote this song. And as I was playing that riff, then the words came to me. Even in my darkest hours, wake in the coldest sweat. Now for the next section, I went to this kind of interesting place. And if you listen to that again, it kind of has this Middle Eastern feel. And I guess I was tapping into then that certainly with September 11, there was a rise of Islamophobia. It was a very frightening time to be a Muslim. It was a frightening time to be anyone concerned about terrorism. And so, and I don't know the musical theory to know that that's a Middle Eastern vibe, but it just felt like that. And I felt it was a little bit of a nod to acknowledge the fears that we all share, and hopefully not to be frightened of. That riff did make its way into the final recording. So it's kind of like this. Even in my darkest hours, waking in the coldest sweat, I still swear my love for you, hold myself to all that's true. The words themselves were kind of referring again to September 11. It was shadows in the sky grow longer, falling down like boulders to the ground. Just like living in a dream and I'm watching on TV. Pretty self-explanatory of the the shock and the horror that we experienced watching September 11, of course, live, like so many other people did on our television sets that time. But whilst that's a setup for the song, obviously I wanted it to be a positive song. You can try and scare me, think that you control me, I'll never lose my faith, hope and love. You can take my life, shut me down, turn off the lights, I'll never lose my faith, hope and love. So there you go, that's the music to both sections and the start of the words. And as I say, you can just easily jump through to the film clip or the actual recording through the descriptions below. Then it came to recording it, and what I'm going to share now on this YouTube clip is the very, very first recording I made of Faith, Hope and Love. I did it using some home recording software. It might have even been before GarageBand, I can't remember. Now, my daughter is a very talented singer. She's amazing. Now, at the time, though, she was 12 and might have been 11 even, and she sang the song for me. As you know, I can't sing, but she has an amazing voice. And even her untrained voice, maybe at 11, was just beautiful and captured the feel of the song. I'm going to play a section of that for you now. And after that, I'm going to play you the re-recording I did, the same backing tracks, the same music, the same basic home production I'd used. But a few years later, when Charlotte had a bit more training, a bit more experience, and had grown up a bit more, and created this beautiful version.
You can take my life, shut me down, turn off the lights, I'll never lose my faith, hope and love. You can try and scare me, think that you control me, I'll never lose my
Now fast forward to 2021, and of course, almost 20 years after I'd actually written the song. And finally, in my corporate career and my ambitions for life beyond corporate, I wanted to go into the studio and record this song. I had the opportunity to work with an amazing producer called Michael McGlynn, Vienna people, in Sydney. Michael became a dear friend and sadly passed away at a very young age, only a couple of years ago. A very sad story. But he was an amazing man, and he was an amazing artist and producer, and he helped me he helped me bring the song to life in a much more contemporary manner. We worked together and decided to bring the song to fruition with keyboards. And he also introduced these amazing drum beats. Now, I'm a drummer, and I backed myself that I could do the drums on this recording. And he gave me the opportunity. I went to the studio and I bashed away. I could not make it happen at all. And then he went in and he just looped himself, and he had this vision in his mind, and Michael set down this amazing beat that you'll hear on the record today. Of course, Charlotte was beautiful and was able to come in and complete the vocals and the backing vocals. And Michael also had this vision of this kind of like this, almost this massed Harlem choir. And he was able to achieve that type of sound with both the doubling up of the backing vocals from Charlotte and himself. He was a very capable singer. As a result, I was thrilled with the final version that you can hear today on Spotify. The song was a beautiful experience for me in terms of writing, of trying to deal with the fear as a young father, and making sense of the world around us. But it was also a beautiful journey in terms of the journey and the opportunity to record something at home, very basically, with my daughter Charlotte, and then many years later to work together in the studio. That was an amazing experience for me, so very much a proud dad moment. The song I was proud of, and so I submitted into a number of songwriting competitions that year in 2021. And I was very, very excited one day to receive an email from the John Lennon Songwriting Competition to confirm that I'd been selected as a finalist. And what that means in the John Lennon Songwriting Competition, so I'd gone to semi-final or top 100 or something, then to semi-final, and then to the finalist. And what they announced on the same day is the actual winner. So there was a winner announced and 3 other finalists. So what that made, that song was effectively top 4 in the world. And so a very exciting, a great sense of achievement. And on top of that, in a number of other songwriting competitions, it also went to the semi-final as well. And in fact, in Australia, it got through to the semi-final of the Listen Up Music Songwriting Competition. And that's an important story for me as well, because that is a live songwriting performance. It's a live competition. So you submit recorded music, but then you go to a semi-final, which is a live performance. Now, in this case, I couldn't repeat what I'd done in the studio. So, but Charlotte and I did perform there with a backing track. Charlotte sung live, and I probably mimed on the guitar. I did mime on the guitar. We didn't get through from the semi-final. We didn't get to the grand final, but it was an amazing experience to perform with Charlotte. And it was an amazing experience to meet this community of the Listen Up Music. In fact, again, fast forward a few years later, I'm now on the board of Listen Up Music as a charity, and helping and getting exposed and introduced to this new amazing generation of artists and emerging artists and aspiring artists throughout Australia. The other story I should share on the actual musical performance was this riff. So that riff there did make its way to the final recorded version with Michael McGlynn producing. But it relied on me. I think the song was faster than I originally recorded it. Second of all, we changed the key. So me doing this in the studio was hard. It was really hard. Michael was awesome. Michael was also a smoker. So what he did was he just put it on record, and he said, "Look, John, you just keep playing, doing that riff, and I'll go and have a cigarette. I'll go and have a cigarette." And of course, he came back a few minutes later, and I'd been going through it. And I knew I had not done, I'd not landed it at all. I'd not been able to do one whole run through of that riff that was nice. And I knew I'd end up on the cutting room floor. And I told him that. I said, "Michael, I couldn't do it. I got the beginning, maybe I got the end. I just couldn't do it." Sure enough, a week or so later, when he sent me the final mix or the next version of the mix that we were hearing, I said, "Well done, Michael. You did that guitar really, really well." And he said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "The guitar's there. It's beautiful." He said, "It's emotional." He said, "That's you." He'd made the effort of taking any pieces that he somehow managed to stitch together to make it a passable take, a beautiful take, a take that could feature on the record. Said so much more about him than me. I wish I could still record with Michael. But we had the opportunity to record a number of times. I actually brought in a band and we did some cover songs together, and also did another one of my original songs there earlier, actually. So, and yeah. So thanks, Michael. So in summary, Faith, Hope and Love, a very emotional song for me. About the song content, the context of writing it in 2004 in a world of fear to terrorism. The emotion of being able to record with my beautiful daughter and hear her emerge as an amazing artist. On the record, you'll hear her referred to as Una, her artist name. And of course, the memory of working with Michael McGlynn, a brilliant producer and friend. So I've not done this before, but I hope I've done what I'm supposed to do if I'm talking about writing and recording a song that I'm still proud of. Faith, Hope and Love.
Oh, you can take my life and shine